Good evening and welcome into Tennessee Volunteers live on the Voice of College Football Network. Tucker Harlan and Jordan Binkley with you on this Monday evening. Hope all of you are doing well. If you are new here, please like, share, and subscribe to Tennessee at the Voice of College Football. Really helps us out. Really helps you get close to all the great Tennessee football content that you enjoy. Hope you all had a very nice weekend. For those of you who are here, we're glad you're here with us. At a little bit of an odd time, we're here an hour earlier than we normally are, talking Tennessee football on Monday nights, but that's because of the basketball game. We scheduled the show for a reason at Mondays on at 8 Eastern time, and that's because that's usually the slowest day in the SEC athletic calendar, unless of course you have these one-off weeks where you have a basketball game, and sure enough, this happens to be one of those weeks. So we've had to pivot a little bit, but no, we're happy to be here. We're happy to talk some Tennessee football with you guys, as always, as we are in the home stretch of the Tennessee football season. Just 2 games left. Pretty wild that we have gotten to this point already in the season, but normally, this is the part of the show where we would go ahead and dive into the game that we watched last week. We're not going to do that this week. We are going to talk about it, but we have bigger fish to fry. And honestly, Jordan, I'm a little tired of talking about it at this point.
Me too.
And I'm glad that it's finally come to an end. But we have to talk about Boo Carter officially entering the transfer portal, getting dismissed, whatever it is he claimed that happened. He is gone from this program now. Tennessee no longer has to deal with the locker room cancer. So I don't know why it took so long for this to happen, but here we are. Tennessee has finally gotten rid of Boo Carter.
Yeah, in retrospect, I mean, it's starting to look like he should have just got dismissed from the during the off season. But I don't know if you saw this online, but before I got on the show, I saw that. Now, I haven't investigated this to see if it's actually true, but I'm assuming it is a Facebook post from Boo Carter's mother, and she was saying quite a bit on there. Was mentioning some stuff about an unsafe environment at Tennessee.
A lot of words we can't say, Jordan.
Yeah, a lot of words. I'm just like skimming through this, seeing what I can say. But
a lot of it I can't understand. I'm not even trying to be mean. I can't understand half the stuff she's saying.
Well, it's like some of it's like she's almost speaking in riddles on here. But yeah, I mean, long story short, she's unhappy, trying to defend her son, saying something about there being unsafe situations with him and in his environment. And I've heard rumors into that. I don't know what's true. I don't want to speculate on that, so I'm not going to bring it up. I mean, if things come into play and more truth ends up coming out, of course we'll talk about it. But yeah, I mean, Boo Carter's officially gone now. I mean, I think we've expected this throughout the season. We've talked about it ad nauseum at this point. But maybe Tennessee can finally move on now, finally get over whatever was going on with that situation, like with him leaving to go to California and everything, apparently wanted to go to Colorado. I mean, that's where I'm expecting he's going to go to now. I mean, I'm sure Dion probably wouldn't have any problems trying to rehabilitate his situation. But yeah, I mean, I think it's best for Tennessee in this situation to finally cut ties with them, especially because, I mean, we don't know exactly how much Tennessee was paying him, and I'm sure it's quite a bit, or was quite a bit, considering that he was like preseason all SEC coming into this year, but just really didn't live up to the hype that a lot of Tennessee fans hoped. And I think a lot of that has to do with the off the field controversies.
So I've prepared us a little timeline here to discuss what has happened going back the last few weeks. We won't do the entire saga because we've documented that in the past. But of course, in the Kentucky game, he gets burned on a play that he probably could have made in that game that went for a touchdown. You've got more growing discontent at that point from the fan base at Boo. And then you had a situation in the Oklahoma game where you're not playing him on defense. You're just making him return punts, which is part of the reason why he's there. And that did not last but a week, because you go into the bye week, and early in the morning, John Bryce of Football Scoop put out a piece that said Boo Carter is dealing what he is calling a hip flexor issue. I believe it was a hip flexor strain was the official terminology on it, so he's not going to play. Okay. He's sure. A lot of us are speculating that it might not have happened, but it could have happened. But I think the speculation increased when it came out that he was not at the stadium during the game, and that, I think, is something that rubbed a lot of people the wrong way. Fast forward to the press conference on Saturday night. Josh Heupel talking a little bit about it, and what Heupel said effectively was, there's a certain standard you have to meet to be in this locker room, and that's the last comment I'm going to make on that situation. So between now and then, they finally find him on Sunday, and they dismiss him. I don't know what he was doing over the weekend, but he was not there. Not even just not at the game, just unreachable, it seemed like, for at least 24, 48 hours until the staff finally did. And the initial reports coming from Hayes Fawcett, Matt Zenitz of On3 and 247 were that, he's planning to enter the transfer portal at the end of the season, and didn't elaborate any further. Well, about 10, 15 minutes after those two reports came out, Austin Price of VolQuest came out and said Boo Carter was dismissed from the football team. So a little bit different looking than what we saw just 15 minutes prior. Different looking report, conflicting information. And then, of course, Boo's mom is posting the medical records on there, which I find it insane that a mother would want to post her child's social security number all over social media. That seems kind of not just goofy, but irresponsible. Why would you be doing that?
Well, I remember there was a situation with Arian Foster, I think, back in the day. I think he posted like an MRI because he had an injury. I can't remember what it was when he was playing in the NFL. And I think people got a hold of his social security number and started trying to like take money from him and stuff.
Yeah, you don't want that. I don't know why on earth you'd leak your social security number by accident on social media. You have to be more conscious of that stuff. I don't think Boo's mom is necessarily the most intelligent person, which is pretty telling of why this situation has developed into the situation that it has. But let's move on here, because there is more to the situation that we have yet to address, more stuff that has come out today. So I think in a statement that he released, it was yesterday maybe, or early today. No, it was yesterday. He pretty much said, I didn't know the rules and the team rules specifically that I needed to follow to try and gain back the trust of the team. And I don't know the validity of that. My best bet is not to trust Boo in that situation, because we know how Boo is. He's not been a trustworthy character on this Tennessee football team for about the last 12 months now, really picking up in the last 7 months. But you look at what Heupel said in the availability report today, because Boo said he was playing hurt all season. And Josh Heupel was asked by our friend Adam Sparks, who we've had on this show before, did you leave him off the availability report because you didn't think he was injured, or are you trying to get around that? Because one SEC policy is that you have to include players if they are banged up on an SEC availability report every single week that you're playing a conference game. So they left him out of the report, I guess, in the weeks prior. And that would have, aligning with Boo's statement, like if he was playing hurt, he would have had to been on there, because Josh Heupel could get fined if he doesn't do that. That's SEC policy. So because you can put questionable on there and leave somebody as questionable and then rule them out before the game starts. Like you can do that, but you can't just leave a guy off entirely and then say, "Oh yeah, he's not going to play this week because he's injured," just out of the blue. You can't do that, and that's what Boo is claiming happened. What his camp is claiming happened, and Heupel said in the press conference that he consulted with trainers. I think after the fact that he was, or after he'd been kicked off the team, and the trainer was like, no, there was nothing that led this to happen. So it kind of makes me wonder if they may have potentially fudged some medical records to try and look as if they were the ones that were not in the wrong there. That's what I'm trying to figure out, because I know people were reacting to that online. And it's like, Josh Heupel would have incurred a pretty significant fine by now if he had lied about Boo Carter's injury status, and we would have heard about this by now, but we haven't. So I have to side with Josh Heupel on this one. Just with the fact that what he did in the end was right. Why he let it drag on all this time, we'll never know. And it probably would have been best if they had ended it, say, in August as opposed to November. But that's where we are right now with the Boo Carter drama. It is finally coming to a conclusion.
Well, I know, like, everyone back in the day, like, we were all kids at one point. We would all definitely played up being sick before, and if done that with doctors. I'm not sure if you can do the same case with injuries or something like that, but I mean, I wouldn't be too surprised if you could be like, ooh, this hurts or whatever. I mean, there's not always a way that you can outright prove it. So maybe that's what happened. I mean, it's just speculation with Boo Carter, but I mean, I don't know. I mean, I'm not surprised with any of these situations now at this point. I mean, it's just been going on before the season even started, like all the controversies going on. And then now the medical record situation too. Like, I'm just happy for this mess to be over with so Tennessee can start focusing on football and not all these off the field issues. Cause I mean, it was bad enough dealing with Nico drama during the offseason. And hopefully now that Boo Carter's not on the team anymore, maybe Tennessee can kind of mitigate any future problems and they can learn from their mistakes in the past. And I bet you if there's another incident goes on that's even remotely similar to Boo Carter's, I don't think Josh Heupel is going to have it this time around.
No,
I think
you can't have lenience.
No. You got to be able to control the locker room. You can't have your players running the teams. But yeah, I mean, I think it's a good thing for Tennessee now that it finally, especially because he got dismissed too. He didn't go out on his own accord. I feel like it sets a precedent that Josh Heupel's just not going to be playing these games anymore.
Yeah, I think that's a nice precedent set by Josh Heupel. If this happens further on down the line, and it's really sad. We say it every time we mention Boo Carter, because this is a guy that had the opportunity to win back the fan base this year and chose not to, which is, I think, really heartbreaking. I mean, all the signs are pointing to him ending up in Boulder this offseason. It just feels like his mom, the way his mom's been talking on Facebook, they're all just clowning Tennessee. They don't want to have any association with this place, even when he was on that team. And they said, I think, because she posted the medical record, she's like, show them the great teammate that you are when you go to Colorado. And I'm not trying to bring race into this or anything, but I know some of the comments from Boo's camp on social media were like, you guys are just mad at seeing a successful black man, which is the exact same thing that Deion Sanders was saying in his press conferences the last 2 seasons. It has nothing to do with that. The problem is this guy demanded all this upfront payment, and suddenly he's looking in other places. And with revenue sharing, and you look at how much these fans are paying, and you think, little kids that grow up and root for the Vols, like, not everybody gets the opportunity to run through the tee. You know how many people would love to have that opportunity for just a few years of their life to be able to do that, and not get anything in return, like just walk onto the team and do that. You know what I mean? how many people would love to do what he did? Like millions. I mean, literally millions of people would love an opportunity to run through the tee once in their life. But instead, he just urinated all over the power tee. He did not give his all for Tennessee, which is precisely why he is headed to Boulder.
Yeah, and it's very disappointing because if he would have just put his nose down and just grinded and not had a chip on his shoulder, I mean, not only could he have been a good player at Tennessee, potentially great, but like once you're a good or potentially great player at Tennessee, or even if you're a guy that is just stuck around and just refused to quit, the fan base is going to love you forever. You may not pan out in the NFL. You may just go in there for like 2 years in the league and then you're out and you didn't get as much money as you thought. But you know who's going to cover you? Like, who's going to be paying for your drinks at these bars or going to be willing to help you out and extend a helping hand? It would be the fans of the University of Tennessee, the university of itself. Like, we've seen several of these big colleges help out former athletes before. I mean, I forget exactly what the situation was, but I think Vince Young was running out of some luck after the NFL. And I'm pretty sure the University of Texas ended up giving him a job on staff just so that he would be okay financially and everything. And like once you cement a legacy at your college, like you're more willing to get help. But right now, I don't know how many people would want to help out Boo Carter besides whatever team's going to get him next. And whatever team is going to get him next, they're going to have to be tough on him and teach him, like, you can't handle yourself in these ways. You can't have your family out here speaking all of this stuff that reflects poorly on the university itself, reflects poorly on you, and inadvertently hurts your draft stock and all these other things. So hopefully wherever he goes, he can get this situated, and maybe it's a wake-up call for him. I mean, I would say that this is pretty rock bottom as far as it goes, being a potential NFL draft pick in the future. And then now, like, you're getting kicked off of your own team. I mean, we've seen people have success before. I think it was, who was it? I can't remember how long he ended up playing in the NFL, but what didn't Janoris Jenkins get kicked off of Florida? I think, or
yeah, he ended up in North Alabama.
Yeah, and then Tyrann Mathieu, he got kicked off of LSU too, right? Didn't he? And then he had a
Very long,
phenomenal career.
NFL career. Yeah.
Yeah. So I mean, there's still time for Boo Carter to turn everything around, but it starts now. He has to start now. He has to take this as a life lesson and learn from it.
Yeah, you couldn't have said it better. And it goes back to the same conversation we had with Jawan Jennings in 2018. Jeremy Pruitt let him back on. It's always a risk with those guys, but if you want to buy in and you want to help the team win, then I think by all means you have to show it for one, but then your play on the field reflects that as well. You look at what Jawan Jennings did after he got reinstated at Tennessee. He played his way into a late round draft pick, and he's proven himself valuable to the 49ers organization because of his mentality over and over again, because he came in maybe the fourth or fifth best receiver on that team. And suddenly he's the best receiver on the team just because he's, stuck it out there and delivered for them time and time again. So, and I get it. The portal exists for a reason. But I think if you are going into the model going into the portal to chase money, you're doing it for the wrong reason, I think is the big message here. Because look, sometimes you get recruited over or you're just told, hey, this guy's here, you're probably not going to have a shot. You may want to look elsewhere just to try and lengthen your playing career. Because we've seen that happen in the past, and it's worked for guys like Joe Burrow is a terrific example of that. So, it exists for a few different reasons, or if guys just aren't a fit. Cam Seldon is a perfect example from Tennessee a season ago where it was clear he just didn't really fit into the offense as a taller, lankier running back. So he ends up hitting the portal. I don't know how well he's doing at Virginia Tech exactly, but it's a better fit because he was a receiver in high school. So, sometimes that is truly the case, but I don't see it here with Boo. I don't really think that was the case with Nico either. But that's my rant on money for the night. Although one more thing, Jordan, before we move on from Boo Carter for good, until we start hate watching him in the future. Do you think it's possible that Jacoby Thomas entered the transfer portal this spring because of the deal that happened with Boo Carter? The
Mm.
money being allocated to a guy that didn't really want to be here instead of a guy that gave his all for the team last year. Maybe he's upset, so he ends up going to Miami for that reason.
I mean, that's a really good question because I know me and you both were puzzled when he ended up leaving to go to Miami because he's been a Tennessee guy through and through. I mean, he even played football at MTSU. So you would think that he grew up as a fan or something like that. I never thought about maybe money being the situation there. But I mean, from what I've seen, I haven't kept up with Thomas too much, but I think he got like 2 interceptions last week or something like that, right?
Yeah.
Or at least one that may have been a pick six. Um, so, I mean, he ended up balling out, and in retrospect, it looked like Tennessee, if that ended up being the case, probably should have gave more money to him and not Boo Carter. But I mean, you may be on to something there. I did not. I That never even crossed my mind. But I mean, I wouldn't be shocked to be honest.
Yeah, it's a theory that I've seen peddle around on the internet, and it's kind of like the South Carolina game and the Connor Stallion stuff that came out in 2023, where it's like this thing made no sense when it happened. But when you hear about that angle, it's like, oh man, that's actually a very plausible theory, and there are multiple different angles that could potentially corroborate it. So, it would make sense if that's the case, and if so, then I hate it for Jacoby, because they obviously went wrong there. Another reason why Tennessee needs to hire a GM. I will say it until Danny White and Josh Heupel do it. I think is the message here. So, but that's all I want to spend on Boo Carter. I know it had to be talked about to open the show tonight, just because of everything we've seen this week. But we had to get that out there. So, moving on, do you want to talk a little bit about the New Mexico State game before we move on to the bigger fish here? Jordan, what are your takeaways from this game? Just anything that you observed.
Well, I like seeing some of the defensive players stepped up. I like seeing some of the young guys, even though we didn't get to see as much of George McIntyre or like Dwayne Morris or any of them as much as we hoped. But I mean, I thought Ty Redmond, he had a good first quarter. He had that interception there. He was making some plays. I thought Prelati, I mean, I just get so excited seeing every single little clip because, you know, you watch during the game, you see one thing from him and he looks good in live time. Don't get me wrong. But then some of these clips come out from a different angle by some of these people that analyze film. And it's like, wow, this dude, I mean, he'll fly to the football. He will lay someone out. I mean, I saw this one angle that was behind the offensive line where he absolutely leveled New Mexico State's running back. And that gets me excited because I've always been a big fan of the big hitters. Like I grew up on the Brian Dawkins, the Ray Lewises, all of them. And it gets me excited seeing that Tennessee not only has a player that can lay the boom like that, but he's also just a freshman as well. So could potentially get 3 more years with him also. And then, you know, I thought David Hobbs had an exceptionally good game. 2 pass deflections, 9 tackles. I think that, I mean, he can be one of Tennessee's best defensive players next year. And once again, we go back to the injuries. It's a shame that he had to deal with injuries throughout the season, along with everyone else, Arian Carter, Ricky Gibson, Jermod McCoy. I mean, just seeing all these guys that have shown flashes or they played stellar last season and not getting to see them on the field as much as you'd hope. It's a little bit of gut wrenching because you start to think about what ifs that could have happened in the season. But I mean, of course, you can't change anything. But you know, I just like seeing some of the younger guys out there. Injuries, like like I spoke about on the post game show, a little concerning again, seeing all those players go down in that one drive in the third quarter. I mean, there's 4 people: Deshaun Bishop, Peyton Lewis, Kitzelman, and Wendell Moy. But I mean, surely half those guys are going to be fine at least. I mean, we'll have to wait and see how it ends up being with the Florida game. But yeah, my biggest takeaway was just like paying attention to some of the younger guys. I mean, it wasn't a crazy game by any means, but I don't think Tennessee wanted to show too much before Florida.
Yeah, I don't think that's the case at all. But you know what? Watching this game, I don't think the offense really cared. Just to be real, I think it was pretty clear that it had uh, another game ahead in Florida, a much more important game ahead in Florida. And you could see that a little bit there at the end of the half. Maybe they just weren't as urgent to go up big at halftime. That's why it was only 21-3. But that's just a guess from me. I don't really have any real knowledge of why else they would go slow at that point in the game and not try to score to go up 28-6 or 35-6 at halftime, whatever they could have done there. Was good to see the run game get going for the first time in a while. It was it went for 194 yards in this game, 4 touchdowns, I know for sure. So good for Tennessee for doing that because you have not seen this team run the ball super effectively in SEC play. And I know it's a group of 5 opponent, but we just have to keep that in mind as we watch this team going down the stretch here. You'd like to see the run game get going again, and that will help you in some of these games down the stretch. Only other things that I got from this game, I think we said it on the post-game show. George McIntyre, much more comfortable looking than Jake Merklinger. I don't know if Jake Merklinger is here in a month, to be completely honest, so we will just see if that's the case. But overall, I think McIntyre did look pretty nice out there with the deep ball, even though it was an incompletion. It was a fun incompletion, if you could call it that. And then he had the little pass to, I'm blanking on it. Cole Harrison.
Oh.
Yeah.
Oh, yeah, you're talking about McIntyre. I was thinking about that play with Aguilar earlier in the game.
Oh, no. I do remember that play, though. So, yeah, he was able to complete that for a first down, even though it was more of Cole Harrison doing damage with his legs and almost fumbling it away there at one point. So that wouldn't have been great. But, yeah, good for McIntyre for getting in the game finally and playing quality snaps late in the game. Defense played its best game of the year, too, just to be completely honest. Like, you gave up a few 10, 15-yard pass plays, but nothing particularly long down the field. You held your own against the run, I felt like. And you created a couple turnovers, got a pick 6 out of it with William Wright. Shout out to the walk-on. Ty Redmond, freshman of the week this week in the SEC. And you mentioned it with Perlotti and Hobbs. They stepped up big time, too. Those are 2 guys that this team is going to need next year. Hobbs in particular, and of course, Perlotti going to get more and more involved as we go down the stretch. But those are all my takeaways from the game. Anything you think we missed, Jordan?
Well, the offensive line did good too. I mean, only 1 tackle for a loss. Just you didn't really see too much from Tennessee in this game, really. But it was nice getting to see some of these guys that don't normally get to play that got to go in more. Because, I mean, with 2 games left in the season, Tennessee's got to start thinking about the future. I know that, I mean, there'll still be 3 games in total left on the schedule. We'll see what Tennessee ends up doing in their bowl game. But it's nice to think about the future once you start getting towards the end of the season, especially when you're not going to the college football playoffs, not competing for a national championship. It's kind of nice to start to get your hopes high up for next season. And Tennessee's got a lot of talent coming in. Besides the guys that we just mentioned too. I mean, the 2026 class is looking really nice. And I think Tennessee's got a positive future ahead of themselves, which has got me pretty excited.
Yeah, it's going to be an exciting future for this bunch. So now we're going to look at the schedule like we normally do. And this was a fascinating week of SEC football. First and foremost, only 2 of Tennessee's non-conference foes this year played over the weekend. It was just ETSU getting the win over Western Carolina, 52-35. Syracuse did not play. UAB, big loss to North Texas. But North Texas, they look legit in the group of 5 seed, so give them that. Moving on to the SEC, Georgia taking down Texas 35-10. This game was 14-10 at one point. Georgia scores a touchdown, goes up 21-10. They onside kicked their way into another touchdown to go up 28-10. Force a 3-and-out, take a 35-10 lead. All of this within the 4th quarter, by the way. Gunnar Stockton, very workmanlike performance, did throw the 1 interception, but overall had a very nice day. And, I think this game went about how I expected to at the beginning of the season, just because it was at Georgia. And, You figure a young quarterback going into a hostile environment, it's probably not going to fare well. But it did well. It did well to win this game. Georgia did, and they're gonna advance to 7-1 and SEC play to finish up with a shot to go to Atlanta potentially. So good for them. Tough luck for Texas though. They're probably going to miss the college football playoff now.
Yeah, and the craziest thing I was thinking about this game is, I mean, obviously I thought Georgia was going to win, but it's funny thinking that Georgia's won 3 times against Texas in the past year, and they had potential last season. If the playoffs ended up being different, then they could have very well played them 4 times in a year, and it's just wild seeing these teams meet up too much, and it's starting to wonder when Texas can get one over on Georgia. I mean, I know they haven't had as strong as a season as they initially thought they would going into the year, but maybe they'll get one over Georgia eventually. But right now, they're they're starting to look like Georgia's Alabama.
Yeah, and I said the Texas 8-4 disaster scenario could happen, but it's it's looking more and more likely now, especially if they lose at home to Texas A&M to end the season. But moving on here, I do want to go kind of quickly. I want to manage this show a little bit better than Josh Heupel manages the clock in the fourth quarter. But looking down here, Missouri getting it done 49-27 against Mississippi State. This game was competitive at points, but overall, you look at this game, statistically speaking, there are a couple jarring stats in this game that Mississippi State allowed Missouri to have. For one, you give up 5 sacks, 13 TFLs on the offensive line. Kind of similar to what happened down in Starkville earlier this season between Tennessee and Mississippi State. Also, 2 defensive touchdowns scored in this game by Missouri as well. So that's 14 of your 49 points there. And then to cap it all off, this is the one thing Tennessee did not do in Starkville, which I wish they had done. Ahmad Hardy, 300 rush yards and 3 touchdowns in this game. I had this game circled as one Mississippi State could win in order to get to a bowl game. That did not happen.
No, and not enough people are talking about Hardy either. I mean, he's stringing along quite an impressive season. Now, I'm looking at his stats. He's got almost 1,400 yards and 15 touchdowns on the ground this year. And I mean, good for Missouri getting the job done even without their quarterback.
Yeah, good job by them doing that. There's an alleged theory going on that I'm a Kentucky fan that needs to die on the internet. I was started by somebody because I said Mark Pope was an unusually nice guy for a Kentucky basketball coach, and they all think I'm a Kentucky fan now. It's a certain group of people. There's 37 of them, maybe a little more than 37, but yeah. So we saw that result up there in Columbia. Again, a game I thought Mississippi State could win to get into a bowl game, but not going to be the case. They're going to have to fight against Ole Miss to try and get into a bowl game now. Moving along, you got LSU beating Arkansas 23-22. Arkansas is just immune to winning close games this season. I believe that's 6 losses by a score or less now, and they've got 8 losses for the season. It just doesn't get any better for them right now. And they had multiple leads in this game. They had a 14-0 lead early on because they had a block punt. They scored another touchdown. I believe it was a Taylor Green rush touchdown. Actually got up 22-16 at one point in the second half, and then gave that lead up sometime in the middle of the fourth quarter. Had a chance to win the game late with a field goal, but they missed the field goal, and then LSU's able to run out the clock and get it done 23-22. I guess congratulations to LSU for going to a bowl game. It's not going to help you in your train wreck of a coaching search, but poor Arkansas, man. They're sitting at 2-8. 2-10 is a very realistic possibility with Texas. And who is it that's left on the schedule? Missouri.
Yeah, and I didn't get a chance to watch the game, but I saw the clip from drawing a blank on his name right now. Arkansas's head coach. I can't think of his name. Bobby Petrino. Bobby Petrino. I saw a clip of him like talking about the referees or something like that, kind of like throwing them under the bus, or at least that was my interpretation of it. I was wondering if you knew anything about that. Like, was there a lot of bad calls in the game?
Ooh, I'll admit I was kind of bouncing back and forth between that one and Texas A&M, South Carolina, which we will get to in a second, even though it's not on the schedule because it's pretty major. But I don't know what the penalties were looking like over the course of that game. I don't have the breakdown in front of me. I just know
that he was upset. He like almost like walked off towards the end of the interview.
He got mad at somebody, I think, during the Mississippi State week, where just had bad call after bad call in that game. So I don't know what that was all about. So unfortunate that the Razorbacks came up short of potentially spoiling a good season for LSU, but or at least a good end of the season for LSU, I should say, because they still got to go to Oklahoma. But they have Western Kentucky this week, so they'll finish 7-5 minimum in the regular season. So enough of that game. There was a pretty big result in Tuscaloosa this weekend that you should know about, and it might make you feel not as bad about what happened on November 1st, and that was Oklahoma getting it done 23-21 in Tuscaloosa against the Crimson Tide. Really, really impressive stuff that they were able to pull off down there. Listen, the Tide outgained the Sooners by almost 200 yards. I think only 212 yards of offense for Oklahoma in this game, but it was the exact same formula they used to beat Tennessee. They get a defensive touchdown early on in the game, and they're just able to mess with Ty Simpson a little bit. Alabama doesn't run the football well. Like they've been living dangerously with that all season. Like, this is the worst Alabama rush attack I think I can ever remember. Like, statistically speaking, it's their worst since 1998. And they weren't able to run the ball well in this game. They make Ty Simpson throw the football because that's the only thing he can do. And their defense, man, give them credit. They just continue to really. They continue to find ways to win, even if it's not just by shutting everybody down. And Oklahoma just went from a team before the game in Neyland Stadium where you're thinking, oh man, they might not get into the college football playoff, to, oh shoot, we've got the inside track to this thing if we want it.
Yeah, and they could be a sneaky team in the playoffs. I mean, I still stand firm on defense wins championships. And I mean, Oklahoma's got a pretty good one. Pretty good one out there. And like now they got what, back-to-back wins against Alabama now after this game.
Yeah.
And then I think I saw online that DeBoer finally lost his first game in the black hoodie. I think it like the record was like 27-1 or 25-1 or whatever, but the black hoodie can no longer save him anymore. So don't fear DeBoer in the black hoodie anymore, because that curse has been lifted.
Yeah. Kentucky getting it done 42-10 against Tennessee Tech. Not going to spend any time on that game. I did think Tennessee Tech could make it a little bit more interesting, but they didn't. Kentucky, one win away from bowl eligibility with games against Vandy and Louisville left. I'll tell you what, man, I would not rule out a win at Louisville. Louisville lost to Clemson last week, and Clemson has been dreadful for a lot of the season. So keep your eyes on the Governor's Cup in the final week of the season. Last SEC game on the schedule, Ole Miss taking down Florida 34-24. Of course, Tennessee plays the Gators this week in the Swamp. Florida led this game 24-20 at halftime, and then Ole Miss scored the final 2 touchdowns of the game. Lagway threw 1 interception, and it was on a pretty crucial drive that would have resulted in a go-ahead touchdown. Florida, though, 2 goal line stands in the second half. Impressive how they were able to bend and not break defensively. But another stellar rushing performance. You have Kwan Lacey going for 224 yards and 3 touchdowns on the ground. That's a pretty dominant outing from the Ole Miss running back. And Chambliss, I think, threw 300 yards, a touchdown, and a pick, because the pick was in the first half. So Ole Miss able to get out of there with the we want Lane Kiffin to be our coach bowl. I guess I don't know how much heat that has now that his family is touring places in Baton Rouge and Gainesville, but we'll see what ends up happening there.
Yeah, it was a little concerning there seeing Florida keep up with Ole Miss for a little bit, but I mean, hopefully for Tennessee's sake, that means they tired themselves out. But I don't know. Florida always plays Tennessee their best. But you brought up Lacey on there, and I didn't really know much about him until after this game. And I was looking up some of his stats, and he's having a phenomenal year too. I mean, he's got almost 1,200 yards, 19 touchdowns. And I was thinking that Quishon Judkins was putting up numbers like that back then. And then, like he ended up sharing reps at Ohio State. I guess Lane Kiffin really knows how to put together a dominant rushing attack because you don't see numbers like this every day, and especially from more than one player. So whatever he's doing there in Oxford, he's doing right. But we'll see how much longer he's there if he is.
Yeah. So one more for the bonus round that we usually do. We're not going to do UCLA Ohio State because Nico didn't play in the game, and Butch Jones won this week. So we're going to pivot to Shane Beamer with maybe the greatest choke of all time, and he was up 27. And granted, it's not totally akin to 28-3 with Brian Harsin and Dan Quinn because that was only a quarter to do it. A&M had an entire half. But everything about that optically looked terrible because he was out there puffing his chest out at halftime, both to the sideline reporter and the Aggie fans. And then they scored 4 touchdowns to beat him. And he almost got gifted a win at the goal line because Texas A&M, for whatever reason, decided to run a trick play, and it didn't work. So Texas A&M taking down South Carolina 31-30. What a wild ending to that game. That was what was a great appetizer for what was a phenomenal Saturday of college football. But yes, Texas A&M getting it done in comeback fashion, down 30-3 at home at halftime. Because the whole first half, I kept thinking this is Tennessee 2022 all over again with
Yes.
South Carolina. There is all kinds of nonsense happening. You've got a doink from 20 yards out, multiple interceptions thrown that are on balls that are not anywhere remotely close to wide receivers. You've got, I don't know how many passes that were dropped in that first half. And it's just like, what on earth is happening? South Carolina, they are practicing dark magic anytime anybody wants to get into a college football playoff in November. And then suddenly the second half happened. So I don't know what is wrong there. If Shane Beamer had been coaching against a lesser opponent in this game, he'd have been fired right after the game. But Texas A&M's unbeaten, so he didn't get fired.
Yeah, and it's crazy that South Carolina always pulls out the magic when they're just not having great seasons, and they somehow go off and almost, I mean, I guess in this scenario, almost beat Texas A&M, but ended up letting them fall back. But I mean, props to Texas A&M for coming back 30-3. I mean, man, I know that's what every Tennessee fan was hoping for in 2022 as the score kept going up and up. Like, I know when I was watching that game, I just had a lot of confidence that I shouldn't have had, and thinking that Tennessee could pull themselves out of it until it just was glaring. Like once Hendon Hooker went down, like you saw the writing on the wall. But I mean, props to Texas A&M for fighting back and winning because, hey, I mean, at the end of the day, it's you got wins and you got losses. And even if they were down 30-3, they still came back and won. And that's what playoff teams do. They find a way to win. And Texas A&M still undefeated right now. But I know when I was seeing that score too, I was thinking about the 22 game as well. And I was like, what is South Carolina doing? Like, I don't get it. I don't get how they do that from time to time. But Texas A&M survived to live another day.
All right, one more little note here. James Franklin is now the head coach at Virginia Tech. That is official as of this afternoon. Any thoughts on that, Jordan?
I mean, I don't think it's a bad hire. I mean, I think that he's still got potential to be a good coach. I know I've been critical on James Franklin a lot on the show, but I mean, I could see him finding somewhat success at a school like Virginia Tech where expectations are lower. But when your expectation is to go to a national championship every year and you can't even beat like your rivals and you go 10-2 every season, I mean, it's hard to keep a fan base happy. And we saw how Penn State fell apart this year, but I think it could be easier for him to find success. Virginia Tech, just like he found some success at Vanderbilt when there weren't any expectations for him to do anything there. So I think it's a good hire by Virginia Tech. I mean, of course, there's better coaches out there that could be into play, like potentially if Lane Kiffin was to leave Ole Miss. But I think Virginia Tech probably got the best guy that they could get, unless they wanted to go to a smaller school and get a coach that was like up and coming. But I like the hire for Virginia Tech.
Yeah, VT made the best decision there. They got a guy that doesn't necessarily live to win all the big games, but he's going to get you to a bowl game every year, and that's what Virginia Tech is as a program. They're not somebody that's competing for national championships every year. He might have you competing for an ACC championship just because Virginia Tech could be unlucky enough to play 3 or 4 ranked teams a season at most, which would put his floor at 8-4 pretty much a lot of those years if he can carry it over from Penn State. So, but just wanted to hit on that very briefly. One more thing I want to hit on very briefly before we dive into this matchup this weekend. There is some potential recruiting news that we need to keep an eye on for later this week. It involves a 2027 defensive lineman. He's somewhere between a 3 and a 4-star. I think the consensus is that he's closer to a 4-star. Caden Fife from Summerville, Georgia. He announces his commitment on Friday. There was some intel a couple weeks ago that was suggesting it's all Texas A&M. There's no way he's going to go anywhere else. But some intel got out that, Tennessee's starting to play its way back into the conversation and has now positioned itself as a favorite to land him. So that would be the 4th commitment in the class should Fife commit to Tennessee. So we usually end up watching highlights after commitments, so we've not watched any of them right now, but we will discuss that if he commits next week. And then a couple other names I want you guys to keep an eye on. 2027 tight end Malik Howard, named Tennessee in his top 6. He is from Oak Ridge High School, so I would imagine this is a pretty prime target for Tennessee, a priority for this team. And that's a guy who has already visited Tennessee 7 times that we know of, at least according to different recruiting services and what we've seen from him this year. So no official decision there, but I know it's Vanderbilt, South Carolina, Miami, Alabama, Texas A&M, and I forget who else that's competing for him in the top 6. I may have named 5 other teams. I just didn't know. And the 2026 class, there's 3 names to keep an eye on as we are now basically a month away from National Signing Day. You've got Jordan Carter, who I know we've discussed on this show before, at defensive end. He committed to Texas A&M a while back, but he decommitted the same weekend he was visiting Tennessee for the Oklahoma game. I know he still has visits to Auburn and Georgia Tech remaining, so we'll see how those go. Auburn obviously not having a head coach in place. You feel like that might favor you a little bit there. We'll see what happens with Brent Key at Georgia Tech if he doesn't get poached away by somebody else. So keep your eyes on him. Micah Smith, an interior offensive lineman from Vero Beach, Florida. He is a 4-star, and he is committed to UCLA at the moment, but we know he's visited Tennessee recently. And then lastly, you've got J.J. Finch, who is from Indianapolis. He's a 3-star. He's been committed to Alabama since June, but he keeps flirting with Tennessee, acting like he wants to flip to Tennessee, just according to all these different recruiting services. So we are a month away, and we could see some flips here down the stretch, and those are just 3 names to keep in mind.
Yeah, it'd be nice to see Tennessee get some more recruits, start to stack up this class even more, or the 27 class as well, get some more recruits in there. But yeah, I mean, it'd be excited that Tennessee can get some flips in here, especially after losing Legend Bay. I mean, it could soften the blow a little bit, but that was a very talented player that Tennessee lost.
Yeah, and I know I kind of threw a lot of names all at you guys all at once. The main one to keep an eye on is Fife on Friday, but the other 3, just sometime within the next month, you could see that evolve into a commitment or a flip in the case of some of these guys. So we will communicate that information once we get it. All right. We got to talk Florida now, because there is always a sense of hope and dread going into this game. It's different than usual. I was on the Florida Voice of College Football show last night, talking a little bit about the matchup with the guys over there. And it's kind of sad because this is the last time we're going to talk about it for 2 years. We won't see them play Tennessee again until 2027. Won't have a chance to go to the Swamp and get a win until 2029. I don't know how much players think about this, but this is a big opportunity for Tennessee to right some wrongs. Because if you look back in the past, Tennessee has not won down there since 2003. Before 2001, the last time they won down there was 1971. Granted, they didn't play every year from I forget when exactly they started playing every year. I know 1990 onward they had been playing Tennessee every year, but 1971 they were not at that point. But it just further emphasizes now that you're not playing this team every single year, that you got to get the wins where you can in the Swamp, and this is a prime opportunity against a 3-7 team to do this. Now, the Florida guys who I wanted to get them on the show, they couldn't this week, but we talked about it on the show yesterday. But they pretty much their sentiment was this team is not playing well, but you finish up at home against Tennessee and Florida State, against rivals, and you might be able to re-energize this team. And wouldn't you know it, Caleb Banks, their starting defensive tackle, is returning from an injury after being out since September, just naturally ahead of the Tennessee-Florida game. There, again, feels like there's that weird inspiration with Florida, per usual. It is a night game at 7:30 Eastern time, so that could add to it. For any of you Tennessee fans watching this who are mad about that kickoff time, direct all your anger toward Jordan. He wanted this. He's been saying it all year that it'd be cooler
I changed
outside.
my mind.
Yeah. No. If Tennessee loses, I encourage all of our viewers right now, you express all your anger to Jordan in those comments if Tennessee loses this game, because he wanted this. He wanted the night game in the Swamp. So, but if you're going to the game, plan accordingly. Make sure you're hydrated if it is warm down there. I know they have Gatorades down there in the stands, and you can bring your own water bottle in there, which is something unique to that place compared to the rest of the SEC. And just be ready for those jort wearers to come after you. They can be vicious. They can be vicious down there in Florida, as we all know.
Yeah, make sure to bring your Kevlar vest and your and your freaking body shields out there.
Yeah, be very careful. All right. So, and I guess one other thing before we get into the matchup, they are 3-7 this year. But if they beat Tennessee, they will not have lost a home game in SEC play this year. They could finish 4-8 for the season and not lose an SEC home game if they win this weekend. That's wild.
That is absolutely insane. I don't think I've ever heard a stat like that before with an SEC team.
Well, because the thing is, they play Georgia and Jacksonville every year. So that technically would be a home game for them if it wasn't played at a neutral site, but it's played at a neutral site, so you can't count it in there technically. There's a little asterisk in there. So, but looking at the matchup now, the big X factor when Tennessee is playing defense in this game is DJ Lagway. Because offensively, Florida's offensive line is actually solid. Jaden Baugh is a dependable running back. They have a laundry list of injuries at wide receiver right now. Like 2 of their starters are out for the season. But the problem is it's Florida. No matter who is backing up these guys that are the starters down there, they're going to be talented because that's just the way Florida is as a state when it comes to recruiting. And I think that they could challenge this Tennessee secondary just because you've got a lot of talent running around out there on the field. But DJ Lagway is the big unknown. Are you going to get the guy that can come out and throw for 300 yards and 3 touchdowns? Or are you going to get the guy that throws for maybe 250 but 4 interceptions in the game? Because certain parts of this Florida offense have worked well this season. It just all comes down to DJ Lagway. Like, how is he going to play in this game? That's my big question.
And I'm worried about it because as bad that he's played at times, I mean, he's still very talented if he could put everything together. I am pretty concerned about Florida going into this game, regardless of their record, as should every Tennessee fan be whenever they have to go to the Swamp. Because I mean, like Tucker was saying, like 2003 is the last time we won. I think you said 1971 before that.
Yeah, I did.
That is outrageous. That is something that Tennessee needs to change ASAP, especially because we've spoken about it a couple times now. Like I'll be 30 the next time Tennessee has an opportunity to play in the Swamp. Uh, if Tennessee doesn't win this game, then I will be 30 years old before I can see them have another chance to do it again. I think that Florida, I just never know what to think about with this game because everything on paper says that Tennessee should win. And I could see it going two different ways. I could see Tennessee finally getting over the hump and putting it on Florida and then getting the whole fan base energized, getting excited for next season and the possibilities. But then part of me too is just like, well, what has reality shown you? What has the trend showed you? And the reality has told me that Tennessee's going to struggle in the Swamp. And I don't know if it's going to be any different this year, especially since Aguilar started to throw more interceptions as of late. I mean, the injuries, they continue to pile up. I think if Ricky Gibson and Jermod McCoy were playing in this game, we could be talking about a completely different story. Tennessee could be sending the blitz out there, causing chaos, and then forcing Lagway into interceptions. But I don't know. I mean, the Florida game always gets me scared every year. I feel a little bit more confident if it's in Neyland, but I don't know. I'm not very, I don't know. I'm excited for the game, but I'm worried about what the outcome could be.
Yeah. Looking at the other side of the ball now, you mentioned Joey Aguilar throwing the interceptions. That's something you can't do in the Swamp, especially not in this game. They feed off the turnovers. They will get crazy down there if you let them. Tennessee's got to be able to run the football in this game. And Florida's defense, as I noted last week, it's one of the more redeeming qualities about that team. And they're very much in that mode of, we're not gonna stop you every single time you touch the football, but we're not gonna break either. It's a bend don't break defense. Like that is the one thing that they can hang their hats on this season, that they've been able to do well for a lot of the year. Like when they were losing games at the beginning of the season, like they didn't give up more than 20-ish points on defense and in non-garbage time parts of the game in those losses to USF, LSU, and Miami. So I think that's something that could be a challenge. Tennessee's offensive line a little bit more battered recently against Bama and Oklahoma. We know the Florida defensive front can be pretty nasty, especially if Caleb Banks is back. We know Tyreek Sapp is another guy on that side of the ball that could hurt them. And then you look at the DBs too. Like their DBs are always going to be talented. Are they better than what Tennessee saw in the past? Maybe not. But it's not going to be a game that will be easy for this Tennessee offense. Even though I think Tennessee will be able to move the ball effectively in this game, I don't think it will be. I don't think you're going to see Tennessee score all the time in this game. Certainly not.
Yeah, and like you mentioned, I think the running game will be key for Tennessee as well. I mean, if they can get that going, I like Tennessee's odds. But I mean, as you mentioned earlier, Tennessee struggled a little bit in SEC play when it comes to running the football, and then like even more concerning to see for me is like I was checking Florida's schedule and seeing some of their losses on here. I mean, they've lost 3 straight games, but they only lost 10 points to Ole Miss. They only lost the 4 points to Georgia. And I don't know. I mean, they've kept it close with some of these teams that should be significantly better than them. And having to go to the Swamp, knowing that they've played some of these teams competitive, I mean, take their record out of it. I mean, having a close game against Georgia is impressive enough. I mean, and then everyone's going to be motivated for the game. I mean, Florida's only 2 games left on the schedule is Tennessee and Florida State, and they're going to be rocking for both of those. I mean, when you have nothing to lose, I feel like games like this is where people start to come alive, and it's a little concerning. But I think if Deshaun Bishop can get the ground moving and start to get some meaningful carries and bust off a couple big runs for here, catch him slipping with Joey Aguilar downfield, maybe we could have a different game. But it's going to be rocking there in Gainesville, and I mean, I would imagine there's going to at least be a couple turnovers by Tennessee. Who maybe Tennessee can stretch it out towards the end and win the game. But, if it comes down to the game-winning field goal, that's probably not going to be the case, especially in the Swamp.
Yeah. So this is not the preview I hope for, just to be completely honest. But they did tell me last night that there is kind of that weird confidence that Florida always has against Tennessee going into this game that all of us seem to dread. And it's a game where a small part of me is glad Tennessee is not competing for a college football playoff berth going into this game, because had that been the case, you want to talk about horror stories. That could have been 22 South Carolina on steroids had Tennessee gone down there and tried to play for a college football playoff berth with this game. Goodness, that would have been terrible. But no, Florida.
I'm shaking just thinking about it.
Yeah, I know. Me too. Now, Florida can't get into a bowl game at this point, but they are playing for pride and dignity and trying to sell whichever coach it is they hire to come down there. I told them last night that I think it probably ends up being Drinkwitz. They all hated that. They want Kiffin. There's like two different people that want Kiffin, so I don't know if they'll be able to get him or not. But do we have any score predictions on this game before we go?
I tried to think about this one a little bit more, and I don't think many people are going to be happy with my prediction, but I just have – maybe if I say this score, maybe it could be the exact opposite. That's my hope. But okay. I've seen enough with Tennessee, Florida. I have Florida winning 34-31.
Okay. I'm going to say Tennessee wins 31-28. It is not at all going to be comfortable, but I think Tennessee will break the streak. And you know what, Jordan? I'm actually very glad you picked Florida to win the game, because you won't have any cursed graphics floating around later on.
Yeah, that's good at least.
Yeah, that's the good news, because, again, man, there is no reason why Tennessee should not win this game if you look at it on paper. But we've seen it play out so much, even in Knoxville. Like, it's vastly inferior Florida teams have come up recently. One in particular in 2022, and they were thrown in the end zone with a chance to win the game. Like that could have happened if we weren't careful. So, we've seen it in the past. Like, and it's the same thing with Tennessee going against Kentucky. Like, no, you throw the records out the window every single time those two teams play. If Florida is not having a great year, they're not truly a bad football team. And I know Kentucky fans look at Tennessee that way from time to time, and I kind of disagree with that. Kentucky's just that bad all the time. But yeah, I think Tennessee, this is a now or never moment for this program in terms of getting it done in the Swamp. I fear for what will happen down there this weekend, but we will be watching that with bated breath as we go into the weekend. But Jordan, anything that we missed on the show before we wrap it up here?
Let me check real quick, because I think there was something I had on my phone. Oh, no. I thought I did. I didn't.
All right. Well, again, we appreciate all of you guys for hanging with us a little bit earlier than usual tonight. This was bumped up for the basketball game, which is starting in about 25 minutes. So everybody enjoy that. And again, if you're new here to the channel, please like, share, and subscribe to Tennessee, the Voice of College Football on YouTube. Again, we are live every Monday at 8 Eastern time. So we will talk to you guys again over the weekend. It will be late into the night, as that game will not be ending until probably 11-something Eastern time, maybe a little bit earlier than that. But we'll talk about it then on Saturday. But until then, for Jordan Binkley, I am Tucker Harlan. We will talk to you again on Saturday.
College football is even more exciting when you've got some action on the line, and the games are even better when you're cashing in. And the Voice of College Football is the place to be to get the greatest value. Start with my picks. 75% against the money line, 58% against the spread, and I've got a 40-plus year track record. 11-0 in the college football playoff for me last year against the money line, 8-3 against the spread. And I'm just the warm-up act. Steve Merrill of Wager Talk is our ace in the hole, show stopper. 7 years with the voice of college football, over 30 years in the industry. Steve gives us analysis on all the big games, but you can't miss Steve's weekly under-the-radar pick. 28-12 against the spread the last 3 years. You also get picks from some of our top analysts here at the Voice of College Football, including Corey Bratta, Matt Zemek, and Steve Dace. Check out those numbers. Become a YouTube or Patreon member for just $99 per month. Go to the main channel on YouTube, click join, and then select the betting tier. Do the same thing on Patreon. Make 2025 a winner now.